champion of the world.
Get in there, Lewis. What an awesome drive.
Comox Valley native Nicole Havrda has always had the will to win, and there are big plans for the rest of the year.
Nicole, Lewis, thank you both for taking the time. I know Nicole just idolizes you and was super, super excited to be here alongside with you. So Nicole, to have him here, how does that feel?
Amazing. It's special. Like, it's just something so surreal.
Nice to meet you. So nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Lewis,
Finally.
I know it doesn't get old hearing just the impact that you have on so many people, marginalized folks, women, to take up space in spaces that they might not necessarily see themselves.
I mean, it's very humbling to meet people always who are faced with certain challenges, whether it's in society or in their community or through a sport or business or industry, whatever it is. It's amazing to meet people and hear their stories and then just see how energized they are and driven they are. And then just meet people who are fans of racing.
Nicole, when it comes to this space, what first introduced you to motorsport?
I would say my dad taking me to a Formula One race. We were kind of at a road trip through Europe, and my dad took me to a Formula One race, and just the sound just like made me like think like I want to be there. Like, I don't want to just be watching.
Yeah, I mean, I think the common tie between you both that you might not know is just the relationships that you have with your dads. And just how important memories are, you know? When you recall that, is that sort of the nucleus of what this is all about? This truly isn't just sort of an individual sport. It's a team sport to support guys that get you to the track, of course, and continue to keep going. Do you feel like that, Nicole?
Sure. Like, without my parents, I'd be like nowhere.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Me too. So.
So.
Well, it's just not about the dad. It's the mum.
Yeah.
They do a lot.
Even more important is the role of the mother, and I'm so grateful. I mean, my stepmom was on the road with me for all my racing career, and yeah, keeping a roof over our heads and keeping us fed, because me and my dad were just always like mechanicking. You know, like my mom was super integral to making sure that we were operating right on our weekends. And then, of course, my dad sacrificed so much just in work mode, the risks that he took. You know, he's like my hero. And then just as a man, to see that strength and that support in the background was huge for me. How's it been for you?
I connect with that because my parents are helping me tremendously, and I would be nowhere without them. It's been like, I would say, obviously no one really notices the mom side, but she's, like you said, a huge part. Like, she's my nutritionist,
Actually,
as
okay.
I say, yeah. And so what we do is we drive to California a lot. So we actually have an RV and we drive the 24 hours. And my parents both,
24 hours.
Yeah, they switch.
Yeah,
Jeez.
right?
So it's like 3 hours on and then 3 hours off.
That's a long drive. We used to do long drives from like Hertfordshire up to Scotland. It wasn't 24 hours, it's like 9 hours or something.
I mean,
like that.
everything in Europe is pretty close.
Yeah, it is.
So.
You know, I gotta be real with you guys. When I step into rooms, sometimes I'm like, where the heck are all the black folk? And you're kind of counting them. Where are the women in this space? And sometimes you're left being an only. How do you maneuver and navigate that, do you think?
I would say that you don't shy away from it. I mean, for me, that's definitely been something that we've noticed as a family. Something I notice a lot within the industry is the lack of women. And that's something that we're trying to address. And it means holding difficult conversations with those that have the power to change it.
Right.
And I wouldn't say that's always been easy, those conversations, but it's about creating allies and bringing them on, making them aware. This is a male-dominated sport. It has been for a long, long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that should be the case in the future.
I mean, was there at any point where you're like, where are the women in this space? Did that ever cross your mind, or were you just sort of like, I don't care who's up in here, I just have to be a part?
Of course, like there are not many women like when I started, but obviously there are some. But it's just like now there are a lot more, but I never thought about it. I was like, okay, men, like, cool, whatever. I put the helmet on, let's go.
Talk to me about Mission 44.
Yeah, so basically a couple years ago, it's now, I think it's nearly, just over a year. Last year we launched the Hamilton Commission. And basically, since I was 8, me and my dad were the only people of color on the racetrack. And all the way through all my karting, all the way into cars and into Formula 1. And I'd never really fully understood why. And when I'd ask the questions, no one had an answer for it. When I'd ask the bosses of the industry, for example, no one had an answer. There's no people of color that are applying, or there's no women that are applying, engineers. And for me, that just wasn't good enough. And none of them were then, no one was willing to do the work in the background to find out what that was. So I was like, I'll take it upon myself to do so. I felt that was kind of my calling. And so we did the Hamilton Commission, which then found out what the barriers were. And it's quite a large scope of work. It's not easy because everyone's impacted differently. Different communities are impacted differently. So we generally narrowed it down to young Black youth particularly getting in. But then we wanted to broaden that scope. And because there are people from all different backgrounds in social, economic, challenging, underserved communities particularly, that are really heavily impacted through education.
I mean, that resonated with me the most because I'm the kid that got kicked out of 2 schools because
really?
I had to skip so much school to make ends meet.
I got kicked out of school too, so.
Louis!
Yeah.
So you know.
Yeah.
The emphasis on education, why is that so important?
Well, I mean, I struggled at school, but trying to chase my dream at the same time, I didn't get the support. I remember being expelled and the trajectory that nearly set me on.
Yeah.
And I remember the fear that I had going home to my parents, thinking like my career's over, I'm gonna lose my racing deal. I'm never gonna be all my dreams are shattered basically in that moment. And so that was amazing when I did the Hamilton Commission. One of them was that young Afro-Caribbean kids were 2.5 times more likely to be expelled. So from that, I was able to present that to my industry, to Mercedes, to my team. And then I started Mission 44. And I put my own money up first. And it's to then pilot projects to tackle some of these systemic issues that are in the industry, but then some of them that are in actual education throughout the UK. And I want to bring it over here to the States, but it's going to be a different type of research here in the States because there'll be different challenges here. And the goal for me is really, I won a lot of races. I've been really fortunate to have had a really successful career here in Formula 1. I don't remember those numbers. They're not important for me. What's important for me is to see change here in this space, taking the teams and the sport on a journey to being more diverse and being more inclusive. I want to look at it in the next 5 years or 10 years and see I was a part of that change and that shift. And it's going to be a longer journey than that, you're seeing it, but still it needs to start somewhere.
How much change have you actually seen over this time? And maybe specifically from when people had the appetite to listen to what you had to say, because you've always been about this messaging.
Yeah, in my team, it's shifted a lot. Mm-hmm. So after the pandemic, when we came back into the factory, for example, from the first time I joined this team in 2013, came back into the factory, and I'm like, well, there's all these women, it's diverse, there's people of color, and it was quite emotional for me to see. But you see that on the marketing side, you don't see that yet in engineering because you've got to get young youth into STEM subjects, and so that starts way down the pipeline. And then in terms of all the other teams, you don't necessarily see, I haven't seen really any improvement or any shift there. But I've been on calls with them all. They've all agreed to be a part of this charter so that they're willing to do the work and look at a wider range of universities where they're hiring from. And because obviously the teams are from different places, like Italy's a different challenges there to Germany or so. So not enough. And I'm someone that wants everything now.
Yeah, I hear
that. But what's really, really positive is having those conversations with those people, with the heads of our industry who are like, I hear you. We're with you on the journey and we'll do whatever it takes to improve it. So that's a much different position, I would say, that what I was in the past.
Yeah, I think it's just so fitting that you both are with each other because, you know, off camera we were talking. She's like, I'm just 16. I can't be a role model. And sometimes you're just like, I don't want to be a role model, and that's okay. But because you are and only in certain spaces, that weight falls on you. What advice would you give to someone like Nicole?
Well, I would say that it shouldn't be your responsibility to have to be a role model, but you are already a role model to young girls looking at you. And it's so important to just continue to be yourself. You don't have to see it as a pressure, an added pressure. You're doing it already, just being you. So what I'd say is just don't shy away from it. Keep pushing even harder. And don't, I love the Maya Angelou quote where it speaks about dimming your light. Never dim your light to make others feel more comfortable around you. Shine as bright as you can, and don't listen to what people say. Don't read all comments and all that kind of stuff. Don't get tired. Don't let them drag you in. That's something that I've always had to do. Protecting your inner peace is one of the most important things to keep your head strong and stay focused.
We joked before, you're like, I'm only 16. What am I doing being a role model? But you are. When you think about young girls who want to follow your path, why is it so important that they have this type of representation?
I think just knowing that you can get there and seeing someone else kind of get there. And I was at the track one day, the kart track, and this young girl comes up to me and she's like, I just got on this go-kart and I started and I saw you racing, so I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. And then she got into karting just because of me, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, just seeing that someone actually looks up to me.
So talk to me about Mercedes AMG.
Yeah, so the amazing AMG campaign I was part of about an all-female driver lineup doing a GT4 race in Buttonwillow, California. And it was showing like how it doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy, you can still drive a car. Like once you put the helmet on, it's like, who cares?
Absolutely, and I think it's so important to say that obviously there is nothing that can hold us back from taking up space in here. Was there anything from that day in filming that campaign that you could walk away from when it came to lessons?
Of course, like I had so much fun learning about the girls. Like I made so many friends, I just had fun, and also learning about the car, obviously, and just I think the main part, what I'm taking away, is all the aftermath. Like, right. Obviously there was this documentary that got filmed, which was amazing, and when it produces, it will be crazy.
Yes.
But also this, like all these interviews, meeting so many cool people afterwards and stuff.
No, absolutely, and I love kind of when you put two people who are just super, super passionate, you can tell right away just how fast it makes your heart beat, right? Yeah. When did you figure out that transition of like, okay, listen, legacy piece, wins, numbers, I got that, cool, in the bag. At what point do you transition to like legacy piece now, looking back on Lewis Hamilton's career, what I wanted people to say about me was that I truly changed this?
Well, I think it's that I really cared. It's that's what I think about. It's that, you know, we're all human, and I think people often think of people who are successful and not human beings, you know, and as a racing driver, they see you as, they don't see you as a human, you know, because we do something that's quite, I remember as a kid looking at it and thinking this, you know, that Superman, it's like Superman, super people driving these cars because we're going so quick. So I think for me, I had the question for a long, long time about legacy, and I really didn't pay any attention to it. I'm just racing right now. I think it was things that I'd been seeing in the news, things that I'd been seeing that are happening over here in the States, but then all over the world, really affected me every day, and realizing that I'm an empath, and it affects me a lot, seeing people's struggles out there. And so yeah, it's really over like the last, since 2019. End of 2019 was when I was like, okay, I'm putting this Hamilton commission together. And then 2020, what happened with George broke me, as it did for, you know, but also a lot of the other killings that we saw. And it was like, right, I'm gonna take a stand, whether it means my job, who cares? I'm gonna speak out, even if people are uncomfortable.
How do you deal with your mentality? Like, it's a huge
biggest challenge. Yeah, the mental side is the biggest challenge. I think training for me, something I've found is a lot of, like, when I first got here, I had this one trainer the whole time. Before I even got here, I didn't have a trainer, so I was working with friends and looking at things online. But I like trying lots of different disciplines. So I did karate when I was young, then I did boxing, I do Muay Thai sometimes. I do Jiu-Jitsu.
Running.
Do a lot of running or cycling. So I try like everything. And you can take lots of little bits from there because it's about being dynamic, not just training in one way. What you eat, it's super, super important. And the older I've got, the more I realize actually what I eat is even more important than what the training and everything. And sleep, recovery, and then just where you're putting your energy, you know, like protecting your energy. Again, like if you're looking at social media is one of the biggest drainers of that. So,
But do you delete it or something?
no, but like I'm
Post and forget, and then you just
Oh,
yeah,
turn it
like
off.
waking up in the morning, my first thing is not picking up my phone and going through, scrolling through.
Everyone does that.
I don't get buried into comments. So people are like, hey, this was said the other day. I'm like, I was not even aware of it. So
oh.
and, yeah, and then just making sure you keep your closest people super close to you, and just remembering that every day is a new challenge. You can't change what's behind you. You can shape what's ahead of you. So I was someone that always used to get buried down after a bad result. But the bad results are what make you strong. Like winning is a great thing, but you learn very little when you're winning, when you have success. It's more through the struggles that you grow the most. And it doesn't sound great, because of course you want to win. That's what we exist to do. But you just got to remember that you're getting stronger every time you fall. It's how you get up, not how you fall.
Momentum forward. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.